No mic here. Good morning. Prime Minister, Minister of Health, Mr. Kingsley Smith, Ambassador Seymour, members of this family, Reverend Father, the community of West End. It is a special privilege and honor to be here this morning to say these few words in support of this family and in memory of a good friend and supporter, Betty Kemp. I want to say that traveling with me is a delegation from the Fox Hill constituency. They're sitting over there. If you can just stand up so they can see you. And I want to thank them, led by Ida Simonette, the chair, Tanya Shea, who's next to her, Laverne Gray, Jacqueline Bryce, Jerome Brown. Don't call him Jerome in Fox Hill. Everybody knows him as Beaver. And there's Perry Davis from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Prime Minister, in 1957, I was 4 years old, and my mother, who was quite an intrepid traveler, decided to get on a plane, Bahamas Airways, and we flew up to West End, which was then the center of activity in Grand Bahama. My uncle was Wenzel Granger. He was a commissioner, the predecessors of administrator, and I was a little boy at night, was fascinated by the fact that the electrical lights on the streets, I think, had to be lit by hand. I couldn't pronounce electricity, and I used to call him the Wile Man, so my mother says. That's my first remembrance of the settlement of West End. And I start there because age has made me nostalgic. And there are various phases of life that I've gone through in connection with West End. The next important phase was meeting Artis and Sonny and coming over here, working with them at the club across the street from the church. But in that period, that's when I met Betty. And she was a stalwart of the Progressive Liberal Party. Let's start there. But it became more important because in 2019, the Prime Minister, who was then the leader of the opposition, asked me to come to West End and West Grand Bahama to get in touch with what he described as the next generation of leaders in this community. And amongst them were Kingsley Smith, Vida Hepburn, Kenvid Adderley, Jareth Roll, Park O'Deal, Edmund Monroe, Ken Nottage Jr. And during one of those journeys, we'd often gather at Vida's place on the waterfront. I said, "Have you seen Betty Kemp?" And they said, "Well, yeah, she's here, but she's not doing very well." So Ken put me in his truck. We went around to her house. And as I got to the front of the yard, the younger women came out. And they said, "Oh, it's the PLP man. I know Betty must be happy to see him." So they went in the back, and she got all spruced up. She said I couldn't come inside before she was properly dressed. And we went in, and we had a good chat, and it was simply a good time. And I'm always happy to do that for people, to let them know that we remember and they've not been forgotten. A simple gesture. And so that's where that story begins. So I'm here, my friends and family, Prime Minister, really to express my deep gratitude for her support, for her friendship. I remember going to Bimini. She was working at Resorts World. And the first thing I would see as the bus was coming along was the shout, "Brother Mitch." That's because we were all in the Elks together. I see Winston is here, so he's going to be speaking later. So we had these connections. A life well lived, a kind person, a loyal and faithful supporter. And we often don't do enough to show how much we appreciate that support, because none of us who sit on this front bench today can be where we are unless you had people like Betty supporting us. Unwavering, faithful, and loyal. Thank you, family. I know she's gone to God with our best wishes. And I'm happy that the church is full. It shows you, the family, that we support a wonderful lady who's gone home to glory. Thank you, and blessings.
A selection by Angel Russell.